What's going on, everyone? The market pulled back a decent amount today as 84% of stocks in the S&P 500 closed in the red. Even the big tech powerhouses like Apple, Nvidia, Meta, Google, Microsoft, Tesla, Amazon, and more. We have a lot to talk about today. Of course, we're going to talk about why the market's falling, but some other stocks to keep on close watch for the rest of the week. There was big news with Apple and Tesla today especially, and of course with the conflicts in the Middle East, what seems to be getting worse by the day. It was very interesting to see a $17 billion contract just awarded to one of these big war/defense stocks. So stick with us all the way until the end. And Tom, with that being said, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, today was a pretty crazy day. To start things off, the S&P 500 had a pretty good jump in pre-market. I was like, wow, we're going to be coming right back up after that dip yesterday, right? Or on Friday. And then we ended up falling off pretty hard here in the middle of the day. And I think a lot of people are still really worried about obviously the big events going on in the Middle East with Israel. That's obviously an ongoing situation, and we could see some pretty crazy like black swan type of events ending up coming from that, and we'll get into that in a little while. But Mike, going back to the heat map, I noticed a lot of these big names were down a lot. You mentioned a few. One of the big ones was Tesla, and I mean, this one, it wasn't down like the others. The rest were down like 2%, 1%. Hell, AVGO 2.5%, getting pretty bad there. Tesla was down 5.59% today, guys. That is one of the worst moves that I've seen with Tesla in a little while. And we go out to the daily chart, and it's like, man, Mike, like, what's going on? We can see there's a big support coming up here right around that $160 mark. And you can see on the book map, there is 521,000 shares that were stacked up at that 160 mark. So if we break below that in the short term, Mike, we might see some more downtrends here, but they had to lay off some of their workforce. So who knows? Maybe that'll help bring the stock back.
Yeah, so this was Tesla's largest layoff ever, and they announced that they're going to be laying off 10% of their global workforce, which is quite a bit. They have around 140,000 employees, so, clearly it's a pretty big-sized layoff, and on top of that, 2 key executives also left. So Tesla stock is definitely struggling in the short term, and it's been a brutal year for this one.
It really has. And, I'll say this. I actually like Tesla as a company, so, don't think that, us being a little bit negative with Tesla in the short term means that, we don't like them. We're just looking at it in a realistic way, and for traders out there, that support down around 160 is going to be really important in the short term, especially with all of this negativity going on. He just keeps losing executives, Mike, and it seems like there's just something negative around every corner with Tesla right now. I hate to say it, it's almost kind of like Boeing, and look at Boeing. It's had 12 red candles in a row. I'm not saying Tesla's going to do that, but if this support gives out, we could see some more significant selling pressure here in the short term, and it can definitely be tradable. Just be very careful. I know a lot of people are looking to buy it right now. I don't know, Mike. I could see it getting down below 140, even pushing closer to 100 over the next year to 2 years.
No doubt. And looking at Tesla stock, especially in the short term, there has been a lot of bearish sentiment. Tesla stock, in my opinion, has been trading at a valuation that's just too aggressive to justify. So I will definitely be on the sidelines for a little while, to say the least. But I really wouldn't be too surprised if it got closer to that 140 level or even lower, depending on how the sentiment is. But whether you like Tesla for the long term or you don't like it, at the end of the day, when it comes to short-term trading, price action is all that matters, and you just have to follow the money on a daily basis.
Yeah, you really do. And Mike, what's one of the best tools out there for looking at price action, especially intraday, is the book map. It gives you X-ray vision. You guys can see on the chart here right where these orders are coming in, and even look at the end of the day here on the book map. You can see these weird little orders coming in at the end of the day that we're kind of stacking right around the closing price there. So, you can see exactly what's going on in the market here, guys. Check it out. We'll have links in the description down below. But yeah, Mike, it was a pretty crazy day out there. I hate to say it, but the market going down was definitely the bigger talk today. And, we keep looking at volatility going up as well. The VIX necessarily didn't have the best day overall, but it got up pretty high at the end, getting up to 1940. And, it had a pretty good day. It didn't necessarily explode above the high of Friday, but hey, volatility is still increasing in the short term. So that's making for some awesome options trades here.
We haven't seen the VIX at this high of a level since October of 2023, and if you're into short-term trading, this is all you can ask for, because the more volatile and explosive the market is, the more crazy that the options premiums move by, and then also just the bigger moves we see in general with the market, which is good for short-term trades, but it also ends up presenting an opportunity to buy some of those stocks that you've been watching for a while at a pretty good price. So definitely exciting things on that front, Tom. But while we talked a lot about Tesla, we also have to talk about Apple and the not so favorable news with them.
Yeah, the not so favorable news is right. I'll say this. Apple has had a lot of negative news in the short term, too. I don't know what's going on with some of these powerhouses, Mike, like Tesla and Apple, but they've been seeing a lot of negativity. And here's another one, guys. Samsung actually steals back the top spot in the smartphone market. They said, see you later, Apple. We're pushing you aside. So apparently Samsung accounted for 20.8% of the global smartphone market in the first quarter of 2024. Apple only claimed 17.3%. And the craziest thing is that the overall smartphone market has been growing. So Apple is just losing a lot of steam in the short term. A lot of this comes from China, of course, and other places. I know in the U.S. they've still been okay, but at the end of the day, Mike, I mean, more bad news for Apple, and Apple's starting to sell down pretty hard in the short term. They were coming up off that like 168, 170 support really well, but now they're starting to, trade right back down.
Yeah, that competition in China is definitely strengthening. And then looking at Apple, they also had some bad news recently with their antitrust lawsuit as well. So it's just another one of those tickers you have to watch closely in the short term. And if you see it moving to the downside in a meaningful way, it might not be a bad downside play, for like a quick scalp or even like a couple day hold.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the funnest thing here with it. And in the short term, Mike, I know there was a major support that we were watching a couple weeks ago around that 168 to 169 area. So if we start to see like Apple trade down over the next couple days, I think that'll be a big support to watch out for. For tomorrow, I'm watching 172, but with the way it's selling off in after hours here, I could almost see it selling off kind of like how much it went up last week on Thursday. Maybe get back to that 169 support would be a great level to reach tomorrow.
All right, sounds good. And then, of course, we have to talk about what's going on in the Middle East yet again. Obviously, these developments are happening on a daily basis. So what's the recent news for today?
Yeah, so everybody's kind of sitting here waiting for Israel to respond to Iran's strike. So it's kind of like a weird game, Mike. I don't know. It reminds me of two siblings fighting each other, right? Obviously, it's a lot more serious than that, but it looks like Iran striking Israel. Now Israel's responding. Then Iran said they're going to respond to Israel's response. It's like an never-ending loop right now. But we'll have to see what goes on here with the Israel Air Force and everything over the next couple days. We don't know exactly what Israel's going to do. They're still talking, trying to decide exactly what they're going to do, but apparently the Air Force is ready for whatever strikes they're going to do. So I would assume, Mike, it comes fairly soon, hopefully sooner rather than later, because I'm tired of all the question marks with it.
Yeah, so the thing is like in a perfect world, there's no retaliation at all. But as we all know, how realistic actually is that? So we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, the more conflict and escalation that we have anywhere around the world is not a good thing. And the markets are definitely selling off in a decent way as these events have been unfolding. But another thing worth noting, as we talked about, is that some of these defense/war stocks have a lot to gain in the event we do see a further outbreak in tensions, you can say. Some of the biggest defense stocks are like Lockheed Martin with ticker symbol LMT. We have RTX, LHX, GD, NOC, KTOS. Like, there are a whole bunch of war and defense stocks out there, and one of them, Lockheed Martin, actually had a pretty big contract today with the United States. Tell us more about this, Tom.
This is pretty crazy. So they won a $17 billion U.S. missile defense contract where they're going to be kind of developing the next missile defense system that the United States will use to defend against intercontinental ballistic missiles. It's a bit of a tongue twister there, but at the end of the day, it's huge for a company like Lockheed to win these types of contracts. Now, of course, these types of contracts I see them come about every so often, right? You'll hear every once in a while, Boeing wins this, Lockheed wins this. At the end of the day, though, it's good that they're winning this. Obviously they work with the government a lot, so good thing for them. And the thing that I see with Lockheed in the short term, Mike, is really that we're seeing all these tensions pop off, so people are watching these defense stocks, and this is just another kind of like fuel added to the fire, right? Like, it's going to help bring in that volatility for Lockheed. There's been a pretty big resistance in the short term around this like 456 to 460 mark. This might be exactly what it needs to finally get up and through here.
Yeah, we shall see. And with defense stocks, the one I am watching the closest is KTOS. It is a relatively smaller defense stock, but we have seen a pretty interesting big money play with it that just keeps adding to the position. So again, I'm looking at KTOS in a bullish way in the short term, but I'll also say this: it's not a stock that I'm necessarily expecting to rise tomorrow. It's more something that can take a couple weeks to a couple months to play out, especially given that the big money trade on this one expires on July 19th. So there's definitely some time to it, but it's definitely close on my radar.
Yeah, I like this one quite a bit, Mike. It has that good double bottom on that support down there, and I really like this. We could just watch out for that chop in the short term. It'll probably chop around for a while before finally getting some good news or something and popping off, but it can be pretty fun to watch these defense stocks too, because, a lot of people think, oh my gosh, it's like Lockheed Martin, it's KTOS. They're going to move really slow, right? But these stocks do have big swings every time and again. Like Lockheed recently fell down 10% and recovered up pretty well over the past couple months, another 10%. So pretty good moves there by some of these defense stocks. And even KTOS has some pretty good moves too. I mean, look at these big gap ups and gap downs recently. I mean, these are no slouches on these moves here.
No doubt about that. And as we all know, the tensions in the Middle East don't just affect defense stocks. They also have a pretty big effect on commodities like gold, silver, oil. You could even say Bitcoin to an extent. And generally speaking, these commodities have been moving to the upside in a pretty good way. Crude oil didn't really move too much today, but I guess that's not too surprising given how much it has already moved over like the past couple of months. Gold continued its march higher, but it did not break a new all-time high today. But still, it's putting a lot of pressure towards that high, which is good to see. And then Bitcoin did kind of slow down a little bit.
Yeah, Bitcoin was actually kind of rough today, Mike. I'll say I was pretty worried about it. Got all the way down to around 62,400 again. If we go out to like an hourly chart, we're getting back down to that support from over the weekend on Saturday. If it ends up getting down to like 61,300, I'll be watching it like a hawk, that's for sure, waiting for it to fall. I know that a lot of these Bitcoin stocks have been pretty rough too. I mean, look at Coinbase today. That is a pretty bad move, Mike, down 9% again. Like, this stock keeps taking major hits along with Mara and Riot. But the halving event's coming up this week. We talked about this yesterday. They keep changing the time a little bit, but it looks like this Friday sometime at night, like right here, they're saying 10:33 p.m. CDT. So watch out this Friday. It looks like when the market closes, Bitcoin, the halving event, should be sometime right around then. And I'm sure Bitcoin will be crazy right then, Mike, along with the Bitcoin stocks and after hours there.
Sounds great. And then, Tom, we can't forget that earnings season is back in action. So what is on the schedule for tomorrow?
Oh my gosh, I almost forgot with everything going on and with how slow the last few earnings weeks have been, but this week's great. So we had Goldman report this morning, Bank of America tomorrow morning, and then this Thursday we have Taiwan Semiconductors and Netflix. That's going to be cool. We have the big chip stocks. I can't wait to see how Netflix's numbers are. It's always cool to see their streaming numbers and everything like that. It can even affect Disney, so watch out. A lot of banks, but I would say Netflix and Taiwan Semiconductors are definitely the main two watchers there.
And while many people love to gamble on earnings, guys, it's not the smartest thing to do. It is much safer to trade the move after the earnings report, because I know a bunch of people just like to trade super far out of the money gambles ahead of earnings, and it doesn't work over the long term. So that's why it's stocked up. We like to preach healthy and smart trading habits for long-term purposes. So try to hold yourself back and not gamble on earnings. Do yourself a favor and do your account a favor just by sitting on the sidelines and maybe playing the move after, if and only if there's some good momentum and just good opportunity with it. So keep that in mind. And besides that, Tom, let's get right into some setups and predictions for tomorrow. A stock I'm watching pretty closely is Meta, and it's to the downside. I have been looking at this one in a bearish way for a couple of days now, especially, and even though over the past couple of weeks, but it's starting to move to the downside in a pretty good way. I love the price action that we saw today with it. It's right around that $500 support, so I'm just looking at it for some continued bearish movement, and as usual, if we are to see the market gap up tomorrow in a very strong way, it won't be the smartest decision ever to try and trade a big tech stock like Meta to the downside. Like, generally, you want the market also moving in the direction you're trying to trade.
Yeah, exactly. There might be some situations where like Meta might have bad news and they might move on their own and stuff. But yeah, I'm definitely with you there, Mike. You got to have that. And that $500 support will be very interesting here in the short term. If we start really breaking down below that tomorrow, that could be a pretty fun opportunity. And if that happens, one of my favorite stocks in the short term for these types of downwards moves is SQQQ, especially considering how many tech stocks actually ended up falling today. I really like SQQQ to the upside. It ran 5% today, and I'll even throw UVXY in there too. It'll be like a 2-for-1, Mike, on my plays with this one. But yeah, UVXY and SQQQ, they have really good percentage moves, and when the market falls, they usually jump up quite a bit, as you can see intraday today. So if this selling pressure continues, these two will be some awesome there'll be some awesome stocks for short-term opportunities, we'll say.
Sounds good. All right, another stock I'm watching pretty closely is Coinbase, and it is to the downside. So looking at this stock, it got taken to the woodshed today as it fell by 9%. The stock has been blasting over the past couple of months, but in the short term, the sentiment's just pretty bearish. So I am going to continue to look at this one in a bearish way. And yeah, I mean, today's price action was just... it was nasty, Tom.
Man, Mike, 9%. I mean, that's such a brutal move. I know that Bitcoin was falling today, but sheesh, some of these Bitcoin stocks, whether it's Mara, Riot, or Coinbase, the volatility with them is definitely up there. Like, look at these average percent moves here. To the upside, 3.24. To the downside, 2.3%. Usually we see stocks in like the 1% range, if not even like 0 point something range. But yeah, either way, that's a crazy move by Coinbase. With my next one, I'm looking at Tesla to the downside. I know we talked a lot about Tesla tonight. I'm sorry to all the Tesla bulls that you have to hear it one more time, but it's important. And going to the book map, this 160 support is very, very important. So if we break below this tomorrow, I will be looking at puts in the short term. It's a major support. We've already tested this 2 times with Tesla on the daily chart, and it's moved up off of here. So definitely be careful with it. But if we see a clear breakdown, it's hard not to watch Tesla down in the short term.
Alrighty, well, it's now about that time for today's momentum plays, and with the first one, we have SMH to the downside.
Yeah, this one's pretty awesome. I know we called this one out on last night's video too, and it's doing very well here today to the downside, down 1.5%. If it breaks below 216.50 tomorrow, right at that low of day, then watch it down. There's a lot of key supports on these chip stocks here, so if they break, we'll see some good moves.
All right, with the next one, we have Amazon also to the downside.
AMZN, watch that 183 support there.
All right, and then with the last one, we have JP Morgan for both directions.
Mike, I saw you call this one out last night. I'm still watching this one to the downside too. So if it breaks under this 182 support, that would be awesome for a move down. I'm definitely still watching it for this week and the next couple weeks. If it ends up running up above 185, then go ahead and look at calls.
Sounds good. So we have the upside level there, and we also have the downside level for JP Morgan. So keep this one close on watch. And then don't forget about the downside level with Amazon and SMH. These 3 stocks are on watch for potential day trades tomorrow if and only if they break through the levels Tom listed. We are looking for strong, powerful, consistent price action with momentum style trades like these ones. So keep them close on watch. And with that being said, Tom, let's jump right into today's $1.95 million big money trade of the day. And we are looking at ticker symbol ADI. So This is a semiconductor-related stock, and the big money bought the 170 strike puts that expire on June 21st of 2024. A lot of stocks in the market right now are falling, which is normal and expected. These put options have a good amount of time to them, which is nice, but they are a little bit far out of the money, which is a little bit concerning for me. It's not the end of the world. It just makes this trade a little bit more risky than usual. So looking at the stock, it definitely has potential for these 170 strike puts, but again, considering they are $20 out of the money, it definitely does add a higher level of risk.
It really does. You know, ADI has been kind of stuck up here at the top. It keeps bouncing off that $200 resistance. So I could see him longing these puts, but with it being the 170 strike, I'm definitely a little bit worried about it. In the short term, I do like the support like around 190. So maybe if we see a clear breakdown here, that could be a pretty good move. But at the end of the day, ADI, I don't know, Mike. It's been stuck in this range for a long time, and I mean, if you're looking at the range and you're playing the range, you would think it might start to fall back off here as it keeps rejecting off the top. So I do like it in that sense, but again, that strike is a little worrying. If I were to play it, I might even adjust the strike and get a little bit closer to the money for maybe a little shorter term move here off the resistance.
Sounds good, but whether you're looking at this big money trade or you're looking at, you could say, the market as a whole, we are set for some pretty interesting short-term trading days, to say the least. There's a lot happening in the market right now, on multiple different fronts. So no matter what, make sure to keep those stop losses in place. Continue to deploy good, healthy, smart trading habits. Don't go all into options that expire tomorrow. Buy those higher quality options and make good trading decisions, because we are coming into a period where the market is changing, and that's a good thing. And there's volatility increasing, and historically this has been a very good sign for short-term traders for multiple different reasons. So make sure you put yourself in a position that can actually capitalize off of that changing market. Make good trading decisions, trade smart, trade disciplined, keep those stop losses in place, and follow the money. If you are into short-term trading, definitely check out that first link in the description and the comments down below for the stocked up trading floor. We had a pretty awesome play with Meta put options today with SurgeBot that went from $750 each all the way up to $1,415 each. So that was pretty awesome, and as usual with the stocked up trading floor, you can chat with Tom and myself all day long, get access to the big money trades and our whole army of trading bots. And while we're in the Discord, let's give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, PK. He said this was his first options trade profit, and he said thanks for the head up on AMD, Tom. So shout out to you as well, Tom, and great job to PK. Come join us in the stocked up trading floor. Use coupon code BIGMONEY to save big with the yearly plan. The link will be in the description and the comments down below. But Tom, do you have anything else on your radar? Is there anything else we need to know for tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow's going to be a pretty big day. I think that these airstrikes with Israel are definitely getting a little bit more concerning here in the short term. We're starting to really see a lot of volatility pick up. The VIX even closed very high today, which was really good to see, especially considering where it was early on this morning. So volatility is increasing, Mike. I think people are starting to have some fear creep in, and I think that that's going to be and make for some really good trading in the short term. So just keep your eyes on these events. I'm definitely watching Twitter very closely lately. It seems like everything's first on Twitter lately, but yeah, just keep watching for these black swan events, because it's definitely going to move markets. And the big thing is, with fear, gold's moving back up too. I know that gold might not be moving to new highs right now, but it's damn close again.
No doubt. And then there's not really anything too crazy to watch for the economic schedule, which again is a good thing, because it just makes it where you don't have to worry about some big inflation report or anything like that. But again, let's have a good trading week, deploy smart, healthy, and calculated trading habits. And besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and let's make this week a great one.